Welcome, coaches, to this edition of Give and Go Live. My name is David Newbury, and I'm joined by my colleague Ian Barker. Hello, Ian.
Hello, coaches, and hello, David.
Ian, we're going to be looking at another activity on the theme of young player activities, this time looking at an activity called 1v1 on the fly. And as we'll see in our first diagram, that we have a 1v1 situation, two teams lined up either side of the coach on the command of go, or in the case of numbers, you could number the players 1 to 5. You call out, for example, player number 3. Number 3 from each team runs out, touches the hand of the coach on the other side, so gives them a high five, and then returns back into the area. As they return, the coach then plays the ball in, and now they compete 1v1 with the white team scoring in the red team's goal and the red team scoring in the white goal. Notice there is no goalies to begin with. Ian.
So what seems like a very straightforward activity, there's a lot here for a grassroots coach to be successful. First of all of our coaches go by the name Robert, or in this case, Bob, because they're the boss of the balls. And so consequently, as the two players run back out, depending on their level of work and enthusiasm, the coach can play the ball anywhere. So this is fair. It's a 50-50. But the coach could decide that he or she wants to change the dynamic. So if you play the ball there, the red player has to recover to potentially turn to go forward, or the white player has the advantage of meeting that ball and then being going straight to goal. So as and when and how that coach plays the ball in is really critical to affecting the dynamic. You may play the ball before the players have turned, or you may play the ball just as they turn. So as they turn, they kind of run into the ball and have to react very quickly. So a lot of opportunity for the coach to dictate some of the challenges and the scenarios in this session. And then once we're into that 1v1, this really wants to be a 15-second game. So the speed of the dribble or the efficiency with which we can get the close shot is critical. And we can then decide what we want to do and bring out for the players. So we can look exclusively, if we want to, at the offensive skills required. So speed of thought, speed of dribble, look to shoot, look to pass. And/or we can focus on some defending fundamentals because we're in a 1v1. And of course, the primary things would be close the space. Don't go sit in the goal, but close the space. And then what does our defending technique look like? Getting our butt a little bit closer to the ground, staggering our stance, etc. So there's a lot in this above and beyond just rolling a ball out and letting two kids compete. The coach can really add a lot of content if he or she chooses.
Now, in the second sequence, we're looking at a slightly different starting position with the players now going around the goal, their defensive end first. So as they entered the field, instead of running onto the ball towards the coach and then having to turn, now the players are running directly onto the ball and can go for goal. One of the things that certainly I do with an activity like this is to make sure that the players just don't run on and shoot, is the requirement for the player to either beat the defender or set up a cone on either end that they have to pass before they shoot. So a couple of things that you could do to ensure that the attacking player has to use a take-on move to beat an opponent. You can add in a point system in order for the players to now accumulate points as an individual, or you could do something along the lines of a team competition where the team is trying to achieve a certain points total. So Ian, lots of things going on this sequence, still 1v1, no goalies.
Yeah, absolutely. So along the lines of a point system, with the coach dictating who's going to get the ball or where the ball is going to go, I might suggest that the person that starts with it, the goal is worth 1 point. Should the defender dispossess and then score, it's worth 2. So you want to encourage good defending as well. So there's a couple of things you could do there. I really like the game where they come from across the field because they've got a turn to goal. This is a little bit more straightforward because they're already kind of getting themselves in that orientation with direction. So that can be an option for the coaches. You can play obviously multiple ways and multiple places the players can start from. And then I like the idea of a playing zone, be it a halfway line, or maybe we even drop that line a little bit closer. So now the player in possession does have to penetrate on the dribble before they get their shot off. And that way we negate the kids coming out and just toe bashing it down the field. So I think there's a lot here to be had, and it does create, again, a different scenario than when they come in from a cross. And so I encourage coaches to kind of mix it up and find what kind of makes the most sense for the types of experiences their kids are having in the game.
And our final sequence now, we have combined the movement patterns that we saw in the first diagram, out and back from the coach on the other side of the field, and the activity in the second sequence where they go around the goals. And now we have 2 players coming from each team. So now the opportunity to combine with a teammate is available, and it's no longer 1v1. So as we see in this diagram, the red player has managed to get to the ball as quickly as they can, and now they're first there. The defender from the other end has come and closed down space. And as we see at the top of the picture, the player that has come and touched the coach's hand and cut back in the field has received the ball inside of the defender and then takes a very direct route to goal and scores. The other thing to note here is we've added goalkeepers. So we've gone from 1v1, no goalkeepers, to now 2v2 with goalkeepers. So we've certainly ramped up the challenge level significantly from the beginning in this diagram. Ian.
Yeah, so many things here. So very often when we're working with young kids, everybody takes a turn in goal. So why do we put the goalies in now and not in the previous iterations of the activity? And the simple reason would be to get a lot of success, a lot more goals. So when they're playing 1v1s initially, no need to have a goalie, let everybody get some goals. Then we see who'd like to play goalie today, give them a pair of gloves and in they go. So that's why we bring the goalies in. Love the idea now of the 2v2. So we've added in support and cover. And I really like the idea that one group or one pair go across and one pair go behind, because now you start to get some team shape. Maybe the players don't really appreciate the team shape, but there's team shape. Now, anytime that you add players, so there's more sharing of the ball, you've added complexity. So if we look at this situation, the player here, if he or she was by themselves, they've got to beat the player on the dribble. Now the option is to play that, what is a leading pass, which I think is really clever, to the player running on for the dribble and the shot. So now we start talking about combinations. We start talking about helping each other. Maybe because the defender is aware that there is a pass here, he or she allows me to dribble. So sometimes I use my partner as a decoy or a dummy run. So there's a ton of different stuff happens now because we've got these opportunities to combine. And then we also have the opportunity to communicate both with the team in possession and, of course, the defenders trying to organize. And then we look at our lesson more challenging. If you really want to strip it down to its least challenging, start off with a ball for each player in a single, or maybe one ball for each partner, each pair, in a 2v2. And so there is no defense. It's more just a race to score. But of course, ultimately, we need to bring in the challenge of the opponent's defending. And we had that in the earlier stages, the 1v1. And then we could certainly go with a prescribed move. That can be a little bit challenging for players to see. So we could say, for example, in the 2v2, both players must touch it before you can score. Or we could do things like, for example, the finish must be one touch. So now, for example, if we play the pass in front of my partner and he or she's got to be able to run onto it for a one touch. So you can add a whole bunch of little how to score conditions to make it more challenging. And if you want to make it less challenging, obviously remove pressure, remove the number of players, because the game is its simplest when it's a 1v1, or certainly if it's a 1v nobody.
Well, thank you, Ian, and thank you, coaches, for joining us on this edition of Give and Go Live. Just a reminder, there are coaching resources available on our website if you're interested in a whole ton of activities focusing on this age group and many other age groups, including activities for older players, high school players, college players, and adults. So thanks very much for joining us, and see you on the next edition of Give and Go Live.